Registering programs to the ISB. Linkster hides the complexities of enabling applications to communicate by making a variety of connectivity settings available to you through the Linkster Web Manager. You'll want to customize these settings based on how you want instances of your program to interact with each other and with instances of other programs. When registering a program to the Linkster ISB, a wizard takes you through each of the available settings. After you've completed the program registration wizard, instances of your program pull these settings down from the ISB when they register. This allows you to manage all of your API settings through your account. You can always go back to your program settings and edit them as needed. Updates are sent out to all instances of your program, even if they've already been registered and activated. The registration process consists of 5 easy steps. Once you've done it a few times, the process can take you as little as 10 seconds. But I'll spend more time than that right now, walking through each of the settings and talking to you about their function. Now, one quick note before we move forward. On each page, there's a context-sensitive help button, and this will open up a new window with information about that section. Now, every program requires a name and a description. Okay, now by default, your program is not listed in the program directory. If you want to promote your program to other Linkster developers, then be sure to select this option here. The program directory lists Linkster-enabled programs and their company contact information, and is available to anyone with Linkster Web Manager accounts by clicking here. Alright, instances. Number of instances that can be activated. You can allow an unlimited number of instances of your program to be activated or put a cap on them. Additionally, you can receive various levels of email alerts whenever a percentage of your limit is reached. Limiting the number of instances allowed can be useful, for example, as an added security measure or to control a product rollout. As a security measure, let's say you're rolling out a program and at the time you know that there will only be 10 installations of that program. By setting this to 10, even if someone got an unauthorized copy of the program, when they ran it, it would not be allowed to register and therefore would not be able to send and receive messages. Now, for a product rollout, maybe as part of a phase 1 beta release, you're limiting the rollout to 500 users. And then later, phase 2, you're increasing that number to 2,500. Now remember, you can put a cap on the number of allowed instances, but you can also change that setting at any point in time. Alright, management of instances. Instances need to be activated in order to know who gets to administer them. When an instance is activated, it has been associated with its administrator's Linkster Web Manager account. You choose whether you want instances of your program to be activated manually or automatically. The option you choose will depend greatly on how your program will be used and by whom. Now, by default, all instances of your program are set to automatically be activated when they register themselves. You can enter any user ID as the designated manager of the instance. Your ID is entered by default. Now, a program instance can register itself to the ISB and pull down its setting, but not yet be activated, meaning managed by a Linkster Web Manager account. In this case, an activation ID is used to associate the instance with an account. It is a one-time use unique ID that is available through a property call to the Linkster API. To manually activate a program instance in Web Manager, you'd click on the Activate Instance button on the Instances page in Web Manager. And you'd pick one of these two options for how that can be done. Instances can be manually activated and managed only by specific Linkster Web Manager accounts, and you'd put in those Web Manager user IDs there. Or you can say instances can be manually activated and managed by any Linkster Web Manager account. So anyone who possesses that activation ID would be able to activate that instance. All right, moving on. Messages. All right, message and attachment life. When registering a program to the ISB, you choose how long messages and their attachments sent by instances of your program are allowed to live in an outbound queue on the ISB if not picked up by the intended receiving program instance. Now, this feature allows you to keep outdated communications from being received, since data contained in some messages might only be relevant for short periods of time. And you'd put those here, the message life and the attachment life. Now, the reason why you might have the attachment life for longer is you can receive a message with attachments in it, but as an application decision, you can choose when the instance pulls down the attachment. All right, transport. You can allow instances of your program to initially try and communicate via TCP, and if enabled, then try HTTP. TCP is faster. However, if you know that instances of your program will be running in an environment in which they cannot use TCP, then you should select the HTTP only option. Now, one note here, all messages are encrypted using X509 certificates. This provides for end-to-end security regardless of the number of intermediary networks involved and regardless of whether or not they are secure. So that message encryption is separate from the transport layer. All right, send settings. Scheduled sending and receiving are automatically enabled when instances of your program are running. The schedule can be a fixed time interval or an allowed range when an instance can choose which an instance can choose from, either programmatically or via user interface control. Now, all of the timing code for the scheduled sending and receiving is taken care of for you within the SDK. Sending and receiving messages is asynchronous and non-blocking to your program. This means your program instance can keep on doing what it is doing and not worry about getting hung while processing a send or receive operation. Now, in your code, you can also send and receive on demand using the send now and receive now method calls. All right, that's for sending. We have a primary outbound queue. Now, we also have a secondary outbound queue. The secondary outbound queue runs on its own thread and can send concurrently with the primary outbound queue. You can use the secondary outbound queue, for example, when the primary is sending, let's say, lots of short messages that need to arrive to the recipients quickly. And the secondary outbound queue can be used for sending messages with attachments, which would take longer to send and would otherwise block the shorter messages sent afterwards. Now, keep in mind, with both outbound queues, you can also give messages a priority ranking, changing their sending order within their queue. Now, something that applies to both sending and receiving. You can control the maximum size of the messages and the attachments that your program instances can send as well as receive. This serves as a preventive measure, irrespective of your program code, to help avert misuse of your program. And that's messages. All right, channels. Now, communication channels are digital contracts that enable and govern message-based data exchange between instances of Linkstor-enabled programs. Communication channels are created only after a communication channel request is made and approved. There are 3 ways channel requests can be created and 3 ways in which received communication channel requests can be approved. When registering a program to the Linkstor ISB, you specify how you want received communication channel requests handled by instances of your program. So first, allow communication channels with. By default, instances of your program will be allowed to create or receive communication channel requests to or from any other Linkstor-enabled program. You can change that to only your program and other specific Linkstor-enabled programs by adding their program IDs here. All right, now received channel requests. When registering a program, you also specify how you want received communication channel requests handled by instances of that program. You can have channel requests accepted automatically or require approval. No matter which option is used, once a channel request is accepted, the administrator of each instance can manage the channel through their Linkster Web Manager account. Now, deciding how you want to handle channel requests greatly depends on how your program will be used and by whom. Now, channels can be automatically accepted. They can require approval by a Web Manager account. This means a request is sent to the Web Manager account, which arrives in the received inbox. Sent ones are the ones that you've sent out, and then a Web Manager administrator has to manually approve that request. You can also say require approval by program instance, and that way instances are fully allowed to manage their own program instances. Now, by default, automatically accept is what is selected. Now, the program instances Linkster API maintains an internal encrypted list of its existing channels. Now, a program instance can access that list using the Open Communication Channels property. Now, something to keep in mind, Linkster Web Manager accounts always have the ability to make communication channel requests on behalf of the instances they manage, and remove communication channels that their program instances have. Program instances, or instances of programs, can be designed to make communication channel requests for themselves and remove communication channels that they have. All right, lastly, creating channel requests on activation. Additionally, you can have instances of your program automatically create communication channel requests when they are activated to other program instances by entering their program instance IDs here. And you can enter as many as is appropriate for your program. All right, and that takes you to the last step, confirmation, which you would simply click Finish. Now, you can review all of your program's configuration settings at any time, as well as edit them as needed, simply by clicking View in the Programs page, View, and that will open up that particular program. You can view and edit those settings. Updates are sent out to all instances of your program, again, even if they've already been registered and activated. And that concludes registering programs to the ISB. I hope this was useful.